In you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Priest was speeding his car on the highway more than the posted speed, and it was an opportunity for the police to stop him and did his background of his license plate and all that. And finally goes to the priest, goes to the driver and recognizes that he was a priest with his collar. And said, "Sir, you have been speeding too much, you more than the posted speed, like 40 was posted and you are driving like 70. It's almost the double." And the priest said, "I'm sorry, I'm trying to rush to see somebody in the hospital and all that, you see." And the priest right away said, "Forgive my sin. Forgive my sin." And the police goes back, does his work again, the computer comes back and says, and the priest was thinking maybe he would get a waiver because he's a priest. And the police right away comes and tells, "Sir, I've gone through your record, but I have to give you the ticket. Lead us not into temptation." The gospel reading on this first Sunday of Lent talks about temptation, which is not strange to any of us, right? Is temptation a strange thing to us? No. It is in our DNA. It is in our bloodstream. It defines actually in our every action, at every circumstance. On this first Sunday of Lent, as a matter of fact, all these 5 Sundays of Lent before the Passion Sunday, the Palm Sunday, the church gives us phenomenal gospel texts. Today and next Sunday from the Gospel of Matthew, and 3, 4, and 5, 5th Sundays, we read from the Gospel of John. But after a clear and in-depth reading of the text, I have come to realize that the gospel text for all these 5 Sundays takes us to one place. Each Sunday to a different place. On the first Sunday of Lent, the gospel takes us to the desert with Jesus. Next Sunday, the gospel will take us to the mountain where Jesus would be transfigured. On the third Sunday of Lent, the gospel would take us to the well where Jesus meets the Samaritan woman. On the fourth Sunday of Lent, the gospel would take us to the street where Jesus encounters the man born blind. On the 5th Sunday of Lent, the gospel takes us to the tomb where Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. But we are not going to all the Sundays today. We are going to the desert with Jesus. So the gospel reading is quite phenomenal. Apart from it presenting to us the kind of temptation. Lent in Latin means the springtime. It is the springtime of our spiritual life. I think a couple of days from now we are going to have spring break. The students in school are looking forward to it, right? The spring break. I used to look forward to it when I was in graduate school. So Lent falls in the springtime in the calendar. It also speaks to us about the springtime of our spiritual life. And in the gospel reading, we are presented how Jesus makes this definitive choice. 3 times he was tempted with what is basic. Right? First, turning the stones into bread, which is basic food, which is needed to every human being. Second, he takes him to the city top, then still higher to the mountain top. These are all related to us in our own life and the kind of drives and desires we have. A time to return to the basics this time of Lent. Go back to the basics and see how you and I are making choices in choosing these basics? Are we just settled with what is there? Or each time I'm tempted, am I making a higher choice? A choice for higher things. At every point in our life, there is a circumstance. At every circumstance, I have a choice to make. Based on the choice I make, I have the consequences. So with the desert, within the desert, with Jesus, today we are called to make a choice. But not with what is basic, but for what is of heaven. First reading, a story from the very beginning of the Bible. The story of creation. How God created Adam and Eve and gave to both of them the paradise. It tells us about the human creation and the fall of mankind, fall of humanity. It's not only about Adam and Eve, it is about all of us. How each time, at every circumstance, we fall because we make a choice for lesser things, forgetting you and I are created for greater things, for the things of heaven. So in the desert this Sunday, we are called to make that choice, that definitive choice for the things of heaven. God places, in the first reading, both Adam and Eve in the garden. Indeed, the original blessing comes before the original sin. God placed them in the garden and said, you have everything to you. You can use, you can go to any tree and eat of it. But there is one prohibition. God gives us extraordinary permission and puts one prohibition. Right? You can eat from any tree in the garden. See the vastness of permission that God gives to Adam and Eve. And puts one prohibition. But what did Adam and Eve do? They overlooked the extraordinary permission that God gave and chose that prohibition. In other words, telling God, hey God, I don't need your grace. I want this prohibition. And made that choice for a lesser thing. Leaving aside the vast amount of options, choices, prosperity that God put in front of them. Each time we are tempted, you and I are tempted, get this. There are many ways that God is giving me than choosing evil. There are many options in front of me to make a choice for heaven than choosing the prohibited evil. At every point in our life, what do we choose? Do I go for the vastness of permission to do good things? Or do I limit myself and choose that prohibited evil? All trees in the garden that God said you could eat from represent the human enrichment. Science, technology, art, poetry, music. But Adam and Eve chose prohibition in comparison to the permission. We don't enjoy the permission, but we want to go to that prohibition each time, at every circumstance. This is the paradox of life. We don't want the many good things that God wants to give us. We want that one prohibited thing. Right? Lent is the time to reorder these choices. Put them in right perspective at every opportune time in my life. I have in front of me a vast display of permissions. But do I choose to go to our prohibition and do that evil thing? Live our spiritual life every day and enjoy the vastness of permission and live in the grace of God. Do I choose the garden of life, or do I embrace the prohibition that God puts before me? But get this, in this prohibition there is a deception. It looks attractive, it is sugar-coated. But once you make the prohibition as your choice, there is deception. Right? As I said, at every circumstance in life, there is a choice and the consequences which are related to that. Do I choose that deception? Lent is the time to reorder, restructure, reframe my spiritual life in the light of God's grace, like Jesus did each time. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. And each moment Jesus made a choice for a higher thing. Because our God wants us to thrive, wants us to prosper. Not to put a limit to our life. By choosing that prohibition which is deceptive. Right? When I choose that prohibition, I make a definitive choice to go against the permission and lose that imago Dei in Latin, which means slowly disfigure myself from the creation that God has made me to look like Him. So in this Lenten season, on this very first Sunday of Lent, we are given this choice. Our faith journey is seeking understanding every day. St. Anselm would tell us, fides quaerens intellectum, in Latin, which means faith is seeking understanding. Each time, at every step of my life. So in this springtime of our spiritual life, what are we seeking? Are we seeking those things that enrich my faith? Or I'm putting all these things aside and making that prohibition as my choice, which in fact is deceptive. The springtime of our spiritual life is this Lenten season. While our kids and guys and girls in college enjoy this spring break, we are called to enjoy the springtime of our spiritual life, not just going on a vacation, but by making this definitive choice for the things of heaven, like Jesus did in the desert. Each time, look at this vastness of permission that God gives me to enjoy and live in the state of grace, as against this one single prohibition which is sugar-coated, which is deceptive. So in the desert, you see the desert is nicely portrayed in front of the altar. Right? That's my idea. In the desert, with Jesus, let us make a choice for the things of heaven. And let us not be deceived by the sugar-coated prohibition. Let us enjoy the vastness of permission and the grace and the state of life that God wants us to live in this springtime of our spiritual life. By staying with Jesus in the desert, let us make those choices that would give a spring, an elevation to our spiritual life. Let us put away this prohibition totally and make that choice for that permission that God gives us. For the things of heaven, for the things of life, for the things of grace. Amen. Amen. I believe in one God.
Maker of heaven and earth, of all things